Have you ever been caught or accused of plagiarizing? In grade school, high school, college maybe? Well, good. But plagiarizing is a pretty new idea. In the older days, if other people copied your work and published under their own name, you would think, I must be really good. They are copying and pasting what I wrote and publishing as their own. It means that I did something right, but others want to repeat it one more time at least. It was quite acceptable, especially in the really old days, before you had copyrights and books and all these things, that people would retell the same story with a new, different twist, because you had a different perspective, a different agenda, or had something new to add to the same old story. Plagiarizing actually is quite common among priests and preachers, because many of my friends come Friday night or Saturday afternoon, they are Googling their laptops looking sermon for this Sunday. And sometimes they find good material, other days it sucks, but thank goodness for holy internet. Otherwise, in many churches there will be no sermons at all. So the question of plagiarism is very apparent when you look at the text of the gospel today. Because we know Beatitudes in its version of St. Matthew. Matthew has 8 of them. We usually think of 8 Beatitudes. Now Luke, in the gospel passage that Deacon just proclaimed, doesn't have 8 of them. How many? Did you count? 4. Come on. You can count to 4 at least, right? Luke has 4 Beatitudes, and he balances them with 4 woes. In Matthew, there are all 8 Beatitudes. In Luke, we have 4 good boy and 4 bad boy. So the question is, who is plagiarizing whom? Is Matthew taking Luke's text and saying, nah, I can do it better? Or is Luke taking Matthew's text and saying, Matthew didn't go far enough? If you look and compare these 2 Beatitude passages, you will see that Luke is very much left side of the political aisle. Matthew can be Republican. Luke is very much Ocasio-Cortez. With Luke, it's very clear. Blessed are the poor, period. Matthew says, blessed are the poor in spirit. You see, one word added, but it changes the meaning. Matthew can say, well, it's not really about the poor people as such, it's about the poverty of the spirit. Luke says, blessed are those who are hungry, period. Matthew, blessed are those who thirst for righteousness. You see? Different twist. To be hungry and thirsty, or to be thirsty for righteousness. They have 2 different twists on the same collection of Beatitudes that probably none of them did invent. So if you are ready for a small class on biblical exegesis, it goes like that. After Jesus died, and the disciples slowly kept retelling his story, at least for a generation, those stories existed only in the oral tradition. So they were retold by people as they were gathering around the table. Eventually, after 20 years or so, somebody, and we have no clue who, probably created a list of sayings of Jesus, a collection of quotes that were assigned to Jesus. So there was no narrative. There was no long time ago, beyond 7 mountains, 7 seas. No, there were just quotes from Jesus, like blessed are the poor, blessed are the hungry, or do to others what you wish they did to you. So that collection of sayings, today's biblical scholars say, had to exist before any of the gospel was written as such, because Mark, Matthew, and Luke have so much in common that they have to draw from one source together. That collection of sayings had to exist prior to any of the narratives being created. And because biblical scholarship was happening all in Germany, they would describe this collection of sayings of Jesus as the source. In German, Quelle, Quelle. So in biblical scholarship today, we speak of the Q source, from German Quelle, collection of individual sayings of Jesus. If you are older Catholic, you may know the Flowers of St. Francis, just collection of sayings of St. Francis, without any stories, just short sayings. So the Q, the Quelle, the collection of sayings of Jesus, is something that Matthew, Luke, and Mark are plagiarizing. That they are looking into and saying, let's create a good story about it. And strangely enough, they all come with different twists on the same story. They look at the same source, and because they have different outlook on life, they have probably different political preferences, they come up with very different variations on the same story. But they all come up with something powerful and life-changing. Strangely enough, the same can be said about our first reading and the psalm. In the book of Jeremiah, who lived about 6th century BC, Jeremiah speaks of 2 ways of living your life. The cursed way is the one who trusts other human beings. The blessed way is the one who trusts God. And then if you look at Psalm number 1, it's almost the same thing, word for word. Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, and cursed is the one who trusts in man. Again, someone is plagiarizing from someone. But they are both so good that not only they passed the course, but they will keep both of them in the Bible. So when people come to church on Sundays or Saturdays, the idea is that you all leave from that experience with something that has touched you, with something that has inspired you, perhaps pushed you to transform and change your life. If you are Republican, Good for you. You will look into Matthew and say, I like him. This is the guy after my own heart. If you are Ocasio-Cortez fan, you will look at Luke and say, oh, blessed are the poor, let's fight for the poor and homeless. Whatever rocks your boat, good for you. But the point is that you look at these texts, that you look at the experience of the Eucharist, where, by the way, we do encounter Christ. In different ways, but we do. And you leave from this encounter with something of your own. I hereby give you copyright to plagiarize anything you hear and see. Anything you experience should be plagiarized by you. Leave every Sunday, leave every Mass with one thing that will make you going on and on for the next 6 days. If you go to church, to temple, to any other religious meeting, and you leave with nothing, find a new church, find a new place, find a new community. Because your job is to be like Matthew, like Luke, like Jeremiah, like whoever wrote the Psalms. Do plagiarizing. Leave with something that you will make your own. Have your own twist on the story of Jesus. Have your own perception of what really gospel is all about. But have it. Don't go living your life without having something from this encounter in church with Christ. Don't be just a reader, a listener. Be a plagiarizer. Amen.